Okay, it looks like we are live again. I'm sorry about that. Technical difficulties being what they are. Looks like maybe I'm upside down. Let's see. Bear with me while we try to get this going again. Yep, my comments are at the bottom. So let's see if we turn this around. And we're right side up now. I can see a couple of you guys are back. Now I'm just trying to get it up on my screen. It's not pulling it up on my screen. Let's see. I see Marsha's joined us. If I could just get this back on so I can see what's going on here. Bear with me, guys. We got lots to do. We don't have time for this tonight. Bear with me. This is the second week in a row, I think, that this has happened. Okay. Okay, good. I've got it back now. All right. And of course, we're crooked. I had it so perfectly straight last time, and now we're crooked. Gosh darn it. Okay. All right. Well, that was fun, right? Let's see here. Okay. So can everybody hear me okay? Oh, good. Kathy says I'm back. So, okay, we're going to just keep moving. We already did our envelope here. And we're going to make this card. So if somebody's picking up just where this video starts, they'll see this is what we're working on. Now, what I did is I took a half of a sheet of cardstock. This is our Calypso Coral. And this is the standard size for a card base. It's 8.5 inches by 5.5 inches. Normally, I would score it right in the middle at 4 1/4. But for this type of fold, it's called a gate fold. What I did is I scored it at 2 1/8 inches. And the reason is because then when I fold that, it's going to make it so that that lines up right in the middle of my card. So now I'm going to take my bone folder and just get a nice sharp crease here. Now, I don't use my scoring blade to do both sides because sometimes the paper is just a little bit off in measurements or whatever, and they don't line up quite right, and then it's just inconvenient. So what I do is I score the one side so that I know it's exactly where it needs to be, and then I take the other side and I just butt it up against the first one, just like that. And then again, take my bone folder. Okay, see, so now we have a card that opens this way. So let's go ahead and do the inside of our card. All we have to do for this, I have a piece of basic white, and this is 5 1/4 by 4 inches. I have a strip of our Designer Series paper. It's 1/2 inch wide. It may be 6 inches. It was just a scrap. So yeah, it's 6 inches, but it's just a scrap. So it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna take my liquid glue, put a little glue on there. Now I know it's going to go over the edge, so I think maybe what I'll do is put my liquid glue right there on my white cardstock. And this time I'm going to line this up with the bottom of my cardstock. Sometimes I like to leave a little white border, but this time, oops, this time I'm gonna make it go right to the edge there. Lucy, do you need to go outside? Your boyfriend's out there? Okay. And again, I got glue on my fingers and got some on my paper. So I'm just going to get that off. Maybe come back after it's dry. I said that last time. Maybe I'll come back after it's dry, and then I still did it anyway. I can't handle it. Okay, so then figure out where my little snips are. Oh, here they are. Okay. I'm just going to snip off the edges. Whoops. There, just like that. And then we're going to glue this down to the inside of our card. You know that I like to glue my pieces together as I go usually, just because it gets them out of the way and then I don't lose them or, you know, get ink on them when I don't want ink on them or, you know, any of the things that can happen. So now I'm just going to line this up, try to make sure my margins are right about the same everywhere. It helps to see where your fold is if you lift up the flap just a little bit, because when it's laying flat, sometimes it's hard to see where it's at, so it's hard to line it up quite right. Get rid of that little bit of glue there. There we go. Okay, so the inside of our card is done. Let's go ahead and do some stamping, and then we'll start piecing things together, okay? Trying to clean up my mess as I go. Okay, got my little set of pens because we're going to do some coloring tonight. So the first thing I'm going to do is put my glue away. And the colors of ink that we're going to use for this are basic gray. I'm going to tell you why in just a minute. Instead of using black, we're going to use the basic gray. And then we're also going to use the mint macaron. So on this little strip, okay, so let me show you what I have here. I have 3 strips that are 4 inches long and they're 1 3/4 inches wide. Then I have 2 strips of the Designer Series paper that are 3 3/4 inches long and 1.5 inches wide. So when we put them together, we're going to have a little border like that. Okay. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and put them together now, just because we can. So a little bit of glue, and we're just going to line it up. This colored cardstock that I'm using here is our Pale Papaya, and it is going to be retiring at the end of April. So, you know, if you are in love with any of our in colors that are due, we have 10 in colors. They rotate 5 of them every year. So if you are looking at any of the ones that are the 1920 through 22 colors, they're going to retire at the end of April. So you'll want to stock up on ink, refills, cardstock, anything like that. This time of the year, people do start doing it, really stocking up, and it goes pretty quickly. So if you're wanting to stock up, now is the time to do it. Let's see. And there's also, I don't know if I told you guys, there's going to be a color refresh when the new annual catalog comes out in May. What that means is they're bringing back some old favorites, and they are introducing some new colors, and they will be getting rid of some of the colors that are currently in our line of products. Now, I have no idea what those colors are going to be, what they look like. We did get a hint that there were 2 colors that were in colors a couple of years ago. Pretty Peacock and something Lagoon, I think. and they are both coming back. Other than that, we don't know anything about the ones that are coming back. Okay, so now I have my third pale papaya strip, but I'm just going to set it aside for now. And I'm going to take my sentiment stamp, which in this case is a nice big happy birthday. And I'm stamping it with the mint, or inking it up with the mint macaron. Lost Lagoon, there we go. That's what I was thinking, but then I thought, no, that sounds like a movie title. Okay, so I'm just going to center this on this piece of basic white. Can't remember if I told you the measurements of this. It's 3 3/4 by 1 1/2. Okay, so clean off my stamp. Okay. Now I'm going to put this one away. And now the other stamping I'm going to do, actually, let's go ahead and glue this down now, again, so we don't lose the pieces. So I'm just going to center it on my pale papaya strip here. Just like so. There we go. And we'll just set these aside for the moment. This white piece that I have left, this is just a scrap, so no particular measurements. And what I've chosen to do is I'm stamping with basic gray instead of the black that I typically would use, because I want a softer look. So I still get the black-ish, but it's just not quite as harsh. Because of the soft hues of the Designer Series paper, I decided I wanted the gray instead. And I just got ink all over my thumb. Okay, so now I'm going to take this stamp right here. You can't see it very well because my little block is all yucky. But here, I'll show you which one I'm using. It is this one right here, okay? I'm going to stamp that twice because I need 2 of them. I think this piece of paper is big enough. If it's not, I'll just grab another scrap. Oh yeah, it's big enough. There. Okay, now, after I've cleaned off my stamp, put my ink away, I'm going to get out a few colors of ink. I've got my light and dark pale papaya. I have the light Calypso coral, and I have the light and dark mint macaron. So I'm going to start with my leaves. And you can really start, with whatever you like. I don't know, just decided to start with my leaves tonight. Put on my glasses so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm just quickly coloring in the leaves here with my light mint macaron. And it's okay if you go out of the lines and you're not super precise. Personally, I think it adds a little bit of character to it. And if you go out of the lines in several places, then it ends up looking intentional, where if you only go out of the lines in one spot, then it looks like you accidentally went out of the lines. Okay, just about done with this. Now I'm going to take my dark mint macaron, and I'm just using the bullet tip, by the way. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to color in these little tips here. And then I'm also going to just color in a little bit where Stampin' Up! Has already given me some indication that there would be some shading, some veins in my flower or in my leaves. There, like that. And I'm going to let it just kind of absorb into the paper. And if I need to blend it a little bit more when it's done, I'll just go over it again with the light one. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 2 pale papaya pens. I've got the light and the dark. I'm going to start with the dark. And I'm just kind of going around the edges here, like so. You can see I'm leaving a lot of white in the center because we're going to bring in the light pale papaya to pull in a little bit more color. So here's my light one. And now I'm just going to go over this and pull out some of that dark so that it blends. These markers, if you've never used them, are great for shading because they do the work for you. I am not an artist by any stretch of the imagination when it comes to understanding how to create shading and that kind of thing. And these markers do it for you. You know, you just color with your light and you put a little bit of dark around the edge. The other thing I've been doing lately is I take a third color. And in this case, it's the light Calypso Coral. And now I'm going over the lines where Stampin' Up! Has created veins or just kind of an appearance of shading. So it's just a little bit of a brighter color in there. And again, I'm not being super precise here, just kind of adding a little, because remember, you know, in nature, it's not real precise and perfect either. And so yours doesn't have to be either. So we're going to let it kind of absorb before we decide if we need to blend it anymore. In the meantime, we're going to fussy cut. So what I'm going to do here is separate these out first. A little tip I'll give you for when you need to fussy cut, cut away as much of the extra cardstock as you can. It just gets in the way, and it does make it easier for you if you're not trying to, you know, work around it and handle it and all that. So, oops, that got a little bit big. I'm probably going to have to even that out a little bit. If, as you're cutting, you find where you kind of made a jaggedy looking mistake, don't go back and fix it right away. Because sometimes when you're done, you look at it and you really don't even notice it anymore anyway, and it's not a big deal. But you also, by going back right away to do it, you kind of disrupt your flow. And I know it sounds silly, but you do get a better cut around if you just keep going and you've got this nice little flow and you're not starting over and stopping and starting over and stopping and starting over. So do the whole thing and then come back to it if you need to. Okay. Okay, this one is just about done, just coming along the home stretch now. Okay, so I've got my first one done. Now let's do the second one really quick. Remember, I'm moving my paper. I'm not moving my scissors. That also helps give you a little bit better flow with your cut. Okay, let's see here. Oh, it looks like you guys are helping each other out with some suggestions. Saving on shipping. And every now and then, Stampin' Up! Does offer free shipping days too. And remember, when your order is $150 or more, or, you know, if you've got a friend who's ordering some stuff, put your orders together. And when they come to $150 or more, you get free products from Stampin' Up!, products of your choice, based on the total of the orders. So that's a great way to get some of these new colors and such for free. Another great way to do it, ooh, it looks like a little area I forgot to color, so I'll color it when I'm done cutting. You know, the best deal Stampin' Up! Offers is signing up as a demonstrator. Stampin' Up! Has all different types of demonstrators. We've got people who are just what we call hobby demonstrators or happy stampers. And what that means is all you do is you don't sell, you don't do parties, you don't do videos like this. You just get your own products at a discount and you're happy with that. Then there's people like myself who try to make a business out of it and do the videos and all of that. And then there's people who just want the deal on the kit and never do anything with it, and let their demonstratorship kind of lapse and go back to being a customer. And you know what? Stampin' Up! Supports every one of those options. So if it's something that might interest you, if you have questions, I am happy to talk to you about it, or you can go to my website for a little more information. But the kit is $99 and you get to pick $125 worth of products of your choice. And plus you get a free paper pumpkin kit, and you get some catalogs, things like that. So it is a really spectacular deal. You end up getting, all told, about $175 worth of stuff for 99 bucks. You just can't go wrong with a deal like that. And if you are interested in being more of a hobbyist, or even if you want to build a business, I belong to a larger group that is a ton of fun. We have contests, we have online meetings if you're interested in that kind of thing. Kathy says she's a discount shopper and she loves it. So, you know, you can get as involved or be as uninvolved as you want to be, and no one's going to think twice about it. So just something to think about. Okay, so now we have our pieces with the Designer Series paper. We're going to glue these down on there. So a little bit of glue, whoops, get that little glue booger out of there. Susan says she's a happy stamper, discount shopper, whatever you want to call it, hobbyist, and she makes beautiful cards. I have been on the receiving end of some of Susan's cards before, and they are quite phenomenal, I might say. Okay, so we've glued that down. Oh, and I have that, where's that? There was one piece, remember I said a piece that I forgot to color. There's no getting away from me. Ha! So now let's go ahead and glue down the other one. Another fun thing about signing up with Stampin' Up!, whether you're a hobbyist or, you know, a business person or whatever, we often get early opportunities to buy the new products that are coming out. For example, when a new catalog comes out, we're able to order some or all of those products the month before the general public can. So that's kind of fun. Okay, so I've got these on here. Got my little happy birthday. So now we're just going to assemble our card. Now what I did, and we'll probably do this time, is I laid them down first because I wanted to kind of make sure that I had everything centered where I wanted them. Because see, if I just laid stuff down, you can see the margin up here is a lot bigger than the margin, or no, you can't because I'm off the the frame. See how the margin down here is really small? So by doing that, I can just kind of scoot things up just a tiny little bit to figure out where I want everything. Make sure this is where I want everything. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put adhesive. Oh, poop. Those are going to move again. That's okay. I'm only going to put adhesive on half of this, and I'm going to glue it on this, in this case, on the side that says birthday. So let's lay everything back out again so that we make sure everything's lined up where we want it. Okay, Lucy, you can be done barking now. Okay, so it's only glued on this half so that the card will still open. If I glued both sides down, of course my card would not open, right? So now I'm going to put my adhesive on the other end of the top and bottom ones. Now I chose to have my flowers where one is upside down and one is right side up, so it kind of, envelops my sentiment in this way. And then last night, as I was showing it to my son, I realized that I had put one on upside down and I had to take my card apart so that I could fix it. Okay, so now the last step for us is we're just going to put a few embellishments on there. Oh, poo. I did this last night too. Okay, so I wanted to add a few little flowers because this just felt sort of plain to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some scraps. Bear with me here. Get down, baby girl. Okay. And I'm just going to line this up like this so that I can stamp off the edge of my paper and not get it on my card. So I want to put one of these little flowers right about here. That was very, very lucky because my finger moved my paper and I almost stamped on my card, and that would have been tragic. But see how I'm just lining the paper up against that so that when it stamps off the edge of my strip, it's just going to stamp right onto my scraps there. Like that. And let's do one right about here. Yeah, I just wanted about 3 of them just to give it a little something extra. We want to color those in too. So for this, I am taking my 3 colors that I used for my flowers. Going to put my ink away. Get down, Lucy. Get down. Get down. Good girl. Okay, so I'm going to start with my, in this case, I think I'm going to start with my light because these are small and it'll just go pretty quickly. And I'm just coloring in these little petals. Okay, and now I'm going to take my dark pale papaya. And I'm just going to kind of go around these edges. That. And then I'm going to take my light Calypso Coral and I'm going to get, well, I don't know why I'm doing the center because we're going to put some gems over that anyway, so it won't matter. But I am taking my Calypso Coral and getting these little marks in the centers of the flowers. Okay, put those away. Now I'm going to take my gems. These are the iridescent pastel gems, and they come in kind of a white, a blue, and sort of an orangish color. And that orange looks beautiful with both our like Cajun craze and also the Calypso coral like we're going to use tonight. So let's see, I'm going to take the small ones first, and I'm going to put them right in the centers of each of those little flowers. This one is off just a teeny tiny bit, and it looks weird. There we go. Okay, and then let's see, let's put a couple up here. For some reason, the eyeball likes odd numbers, and so I do try to usually do an odd number of embellishments. Oops. Oh, I have one stuck to me. Okay, there we go. So now this card's finished. Let's put our stuff away and we can take a peek at the finished card. So there we go. Cute little happy birthday card. And our matching envelope. No, Robin, I'm not torturing the poor baby, but her boyfriend is outside. And so they sit there and they bark at one another to tell each other to come outside and play. Teresa says she's another hobby demonstrator as well, and that she really enjoys that. So yeah, you can see it's a great opportunity to just get your discount, and you can get 20 to 25% off just by being a hobby demonstrator, but you can get an even higher discount and such if you decide to turn it into a business, and that's totally up to you. Okay, so we've got that card done. Let's go ahead and put these cards away and get going on our next ones. We've got some time to make up for. Okay, now this one has a lot of pieces to it, but it really is a pretty simple card. We're going to use the framed florets bundle. This comes with these stamps and then these dies, both sets, both sides that you see here. So it comes with quite a few dies, and it's fun. And I love the font in this. The font is actually what sold me on this set. So for this one, here's our card we're going to make. And the inside, pretty simple on the inside. So let's go ahead and get started. Start with our envelope. Again, we're just putting a little bit of Designer Series paper on the envelope flap. The strip is 2.5 inches by 6 inches. Boop. Okay, and this paper, this Designer Series paper, give me just a second and I can tell you what it's called. It is dun, 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 Country Floral Lane, and you'll find it in our January through April mini catalog, and it's actually in the Valentine section. But you can see, I mean, this is very non-Valentine looking, and you can kind of see the back where it's, well, you can't see it all that well, I guess, but it's little bicycles and stuff. So even though there's hearts and things like that, it isn't necessarily super Valentine-y. Okay, so we're going to cut off the excess here. Okay. Boom. Okay, there we go. So throw away those little scraps and we'll get started on our card. The card base is a standard card base. It's a half of a sheet of cardstock, 8.5 inches by 5.5 inches, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. We'll take our bone folder, get a nice sharp crease. And then let's just start putting some pieces together here. We'll do the inside first. So we have this piece of basic white. It's 5 1/4 by 4. And I have this little strip of our designer series paper and this little strip of crumb cake. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue on our crumb cake. And can't pick this piece up. Okay, and we're just going to center it on there. It's got a very narrow margin. The crumb cake is 4 inches by a 1/2 inch, and then the designer series paper piece is 3/8 inch. It's just a scrap as far as length goes. So as you can see, I need to trim it down, but it's 3/8 inch wide. There we go. And we're just going to glue this onto that piece of white. You know, I like to decorate the insides of my cards, just like I like to decorate my envelopes. I like to put something on the inside. Sometimes, oh, see, this is a little bit long. Sometimes I like to do a stamped image. Sometimes I just do something simple like this, the coordinating cardstock or designer series paper. Just a little something that carries the card through to the inside, or the design through to the inside of your card. And now we'll trim off the extra pieces here. Okay. And let's go ahead and glue this into our card. Line it up, try to make sure the margins are relatively the same everywhere. Okay, and now we're going to set the card out of the way for the moment. We have a piece of crumb cake. This piece is 5 1/4 by 4, and then a piece of our designer series paper. This is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. We're just going to glue those pieces together. Okay, and now we're going to take the crumb cake frame that I already cut out with the dies, and I'm going to put a little bit of glue on all of the, I don't know what you call these points. I mean, they're not corners, but, you know, if they were a clock, they would be 3, 6, 12, and 9 o'clock. Well, 3, 6, 9, 12. And then just, you know, a little bit on these outer edges here just to make sure they stay down as well. And now I'm just going to center this on my little panel here. Again, my liquid glue allows me to slide it around for a little bit of time to make sure that it's straight and centered. Okay, I think that looks pretty straight, pretty centered. Okay, next I have this white piece. When you use the die cut to cut out this frame, it also cuts out this middle piece for you. So when I cut them, I just set these pieces aside to use later for other things. So like in this case, I'm using it here, and I'm just going to put it right on the inside of the frame. And actually, before we do that, let's stamp it. That way, if we screw it up, we haven't already attached it to our card. And I'm going to use crumb cake ink. There we go. Use my crumb cake ink. And I'm just going to stamp my sentiment, which says, hold on, let me find it here. It says, "Wishes for a beautiful birthday." And I'm pretty much centering it, maybe a little bit higher than center, but not a whole lot. There we go. Lucy's out there barking for her boyfriend to come back out. Okay, now, so now I'm going to go ahead and glue this piece in. Just a little bit of my liquid glue on the back. And I know it looks like a lot, but I'm not really lifting the nozzle up off the paper, so not a lot of glue actually comes out. Okay, so this fits right in there because remember, it cut out when I die cut it. And now what we're going to do is we have this little blue frame. Let's go ahead and glue it on. Just a little bit of glue all the way around because I can. It's not as intricate as that big frame we put on there. And I'm just putting it right over here. So I'm covering up where the white and the crumb cake meet. Like that. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take, this is just a scrap of white, no particular size. And I'm going to use my black Memento ink and ink up my stamp. I like to stamp a sample one first sometimes just to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do to make sure it's properly inked. Okay, so I'm going to stamp it on there. There we go. Okay, put my ink away because I can do some damage. Hey, John, welcome. I didn't see you sneak in. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of coloring. We're going to use our mint macaron again. We're also going to use the Garden Green, Orchid Oasis, and Balmy Blue. And we're using one of our aqua painters. These are paintbrushes that have, you can put water in the shaft of the brush. And so you just squeeze it, it gets a little bit of the water out. I'm going to move this out of the way though. And so I'm going to start with my leaves and my mint macaron. What I did to get the ink in my lid is flip your lid or flip your ink pad upside down and then give it CPR. Just like that, okay? That presses the ink pad into the lid and now you've got a little bit of color that you can work with. So now I'm just going to kind of quickly color in my leaves. And see how I'm just kind of scribbling almost? So it does leave a little bit of white. That's okay. That's kind of intentional on my part. Okay, now what I'm going to do, close that ink pad, and I'm going to clean off my brush, just squeeze a little bit of that water, brush it on my hand just so that I'm not getting my, I could do it on a piece of paper, a paper towel, whatever. I just don't want to get my work surface all wet. And I'm just going to add a little bit of the Garden Green. Where these leaves, where the veins are in the leaves. All right, Lucy, you gotta wait your turn. Maybe a little bit on these. Just a little bit of color. There. And then I'm gonna clean it off again. And close up this ink pad before I do some damage. Now I'm going to use my Balmy Blue. Got my The other reason I do this on my hand is to get some of that excess water off, because you want your brush to be wet, but you don't want it to be dripping, at least not for this. For some watercolor stuff you do, but not for this. And so again, I'm just coloring it, no real precision, just kind of scribbly coloring. Okay, and then last but not least, clean off my brush a little bit. I'm going to use my Orchid Oasis. And I'm just adding a little bit of the blue shading with a darker shading. And it is a different shade of blue. It doesn't, totally blend in, but I kind of liked that actually. There. Now as that absorbs into the paper, of course my color is going to blend even more, and it's going to look pretty awesome when it's all done. So let's set this aside for the moment while I put away these ink pads. And now what we're going to do is we're going to cut it out with our dies. One thing I do want to warn you about, when you do watercoloring like this and the paper is kind of wet, well, let me back up. I am going to be using some Post-it tape to tape my die in place. And you do want to be careful, because when the paper is slightly wet, sometimes that Post-it tape really sticks to it, and then it tears up your image when you take it off. So you want to lay it on pretty gently, and you want to peel it back up pretty gently when you go to take it off. This is just Post-it tape. I bought it on Amazon. And there's different products just like this. Some people use washi tape. Some people use Post-it notes. Okay, so it looks like I'm lined up where I need to be. So I'm just gonna put it here. I'm gonna grab my cutting and embossing machine. We can do this with the little one tonight. So, move my pieces out of the way here. Mint tape. I've never heard of that, Joyce. What is mint tape? Oh, okay. So Joyce just asked a really good question. Thank you for asking this. Good night, Kathy. Joyce asked, how do I decide what to color with blends and what to use the water brush with? It really is just a matter of preference. You will get a softer look with the water pen than you will with your markers. The markers will just give you a brighter, more vibrant look. And so it just comes down to what you want or what you have handy. For example, I was going to color this with my pens, and I noticed my Balmy Blue is out of ink and it wasn't coloring. So I went, okay, then I'll watercolor. So feeding this through. Fold this guy back up. That's one of the really nice things. Both our big machine and our little one like this, you can see the pieces fold out like this, and they fold up so nicely when you're not using it. Did anybody here sign up last month when we had the special where you could get that cutting and embossing machine with your kit? That's a great idea too. John suggests using your heat tool to dry the paper before you stick down the tape so that you don't run into the problem I was talking about earlier. That also is a great idea. Okay, there we go. So we've got our flower, or flowers, I should say. Put my die away. Now we're going to just start piecing a few things together. So I have these little, I don't know what you want to call this, greenery. And this is done out of our, oh, why can't I think of the name of the color? It is Soft Succulent. And then, oh, okay. Set my ribbon aside there. Where I just did a few of the little leaves that I'm going to put behind my flowers like this, okay? So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that wherever you put it, it's not going to go off the edge of your card and then get messed up when you try to put it in an envelope, right? So let's put a little bit of glue on here. Yeah, that's going to work right there, like that. And then I have my little leaves that we're going to do the same thing. Let's see, put one right there. Like that. And then I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back. I love using dimensionals. It just pops the stuff up and gives it a little bit of interest. You know, I like to use a lot of dimensionals. You don't have to. I believe it's a neuroses of mine. So you use what you're comfortable with. Okay. So I'm going to peel those backs off. The backs of dimensionals, the gift that keeps on giving, because I'll tear these off, you know, and you find them forevermore in your house. Okay, so now I want to line this up kind of like so. I'm doing just a little bit of an angle. And then finally, I have a little bit of my linen thread, 2 pieces. What are you doing? Okay. So I've got my 2 pieces of linen thread. I'm going to tie myself a bow. No, get down. No, because you tend to steal my stuff. So you get down. Okay, so I've got my bow. I do love bows. And I like to make double bows like this. They just have a little bit more body, a little bit of interest. Separate out those loops. There. And then you want to make sure your tails are the same length, because it looks sort of silly when one is considerably longer than the other. I've never heard of that mint tape before, Joyce. Do you buy it in a craft store, or do you buy it like in a home goods, like frog tape? Oh, Joyce got the Boho Blue cutting and embossing machine with the sign-up special last month. Very cool. It's a very pretty color. Okay, so I've got my glue dots here. I'm going to take my Take Your Pick tool. Lucy, no. No, ma'am. Yeah, now you're being obnoxious because I'm not paying attention to you. And you know that I will if you do things you're not supposed to do. Get down. Yeah. Okay, so I put a glue dot right on the back of the knot of my bow. And then I'm just putting it right there. And now we just need to stick this onto the front of our card. Check our margins. And there we go. Card number 2. See, I told you we had a lot going on tonight. Okay, so let's go ahead and clean up a little bit so that we can finish up with card number 3. The last card we're going to be using the Love Cats set. I love this. I just think it's really adorable. Again, this is one that's in our Valentine's section, but of course it doesn't have to just be for Valentine's Day. And then I'm also using my Stylish Shapes dies and my stitched rectangles and my piggy dies. Now, you don't have to use quite so many like I did. You could use any shape. I just wanted the little flowers, but you could use anything that you've got. And the rectangles with the square, you're going to see what we're going to do here. And you could actually do that with your Stampin' Up! Trimmer if you've got if you have the Stampin' Up! One or one like it. I'll show you. So here's the card, and I'm using the, let's see what that, Hues of Happiness. That's what the Designer Series paper is called. And look at that. Isn't that adorable? So cute. Leave it alone. Okay, so this little window, this is what I created with the rectangle and then with the square. And I'm going to show you how I did that. So let's set some stuff aside. Oh, and this is the inside of the card. Okay, so this one's pretty easy to do, but there's a few steps. Let's start with our envelope. All 3 cards tonight were just a simple strip of Designer Series paper on the envelope flap. And line that up, wiggle it around until it's right where I want it. My paper snips were hiding from me. This is a beautiful, beautiful pack of Designer Series paper. One side is mostly florals, and then the other sides look like canvas watercolor kind of. It's really, really beautiful. Okay, so we'll set our envelope out of the way. And our card base is just the standard base, 8.5 inches. Hey, Nell, welcome. So 8.5 inches by 5.5 inches, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. Okay, now we're not going to do the entire inside quite yet, but let's go ahead and start by gluing this little strip down. So I'm just going to take my glue, and I'm just going to do a little line of glue right along the bottom of my card. And I'm going to stick it right up to the fold there, or the crease. And I want it to line up right flush with the bottom of my card. And I'll cut off the extra. There we go. And I'm going to leave that for the moment because we've got more work to do on that. We also have these 2 pieces. Let's go ahead and glue these down. These go on the front. But let's glue these down just because it's less stuff in our way if we do. So this piece, which is, what's the color called? I'm having a hard time with my colors tonight. Melon Mambo, and it's 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And then the Designer Series paper is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And we're just going to stick this down on our card. Oh, I did not fold this very well, did I? Let's see if we can get it kind of better. Okay, now we'll lay this down. Okay, now I'm going to take my stitched rectangles and let's see, I think this is the size I used. Let's double check. Yep. And I'm putting it over here. I may have to use a different scrap. I don't know if I'm going to have enough room to stamp both of my cats on here. Okay, so I've got this piece, and then I took a square from my Stitched Shapes dies. Is this the size? Is that the right size? Yep. And I lined it up in here. And what I tried to do is get so that the distance, let me get my tape ready. Oh, where did my tape go? Okay. I want the distance between the square and the rectangle to be the same. Gosh darn it, I keep moving it. On the top, the left, and the right. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of room left on the bottom, and that is by design. But we do want it to be pretty much the same when it comes to the top, the left, and the right, where we're creating our window. Last night, this was so easy, it just went boop. And then tonight, I just am having a hard time lining it all up. Okay. And then, I guess my piece is a little big for my mini cutting machine, so I'm going to bring my big one over. Give me just a second. I know it's really hard for you guys to see when I use the big one. Move some stuff out of the way here. But I'm just going to line that up there. This looks a little bit crooked to me. There we go. There we go. Okay. And I'm just going to feed it through. Apologize for the wiggling. Oops. Wow, I really did some wiggling that time, didn't I? Okay. I'm going to set all this aside, just put my machine away really quick. Okay. Now, when I take my tape off, I've got this little square that where I cut out the window, and I'll just set this aside, put it in my scraps to use for something else later. But see, I ended up cutting my window, or my rectangle with the window inside. And that's how I did that. But you could also, if you don't have the die cutting machine, use your cutter to cut the rectangle, and then because our cutter has a drop blade, meaning you can drop the blade wherever you want it to start cutting, it doesn't have to start on an end, you can go in and just cut out the square. So let's put these dies away. And I've already cut out all the flowers that I need, so we can put that away too. And now we'll set this to, well, we're going to do some stamping right now, so we might as well stamp that part. We've got our melon mambo, and then we also need black. So for the melon mambo, we're going to stamp our sentiment, which just says head over heels about you, but it could be anything. It could be happy birthday, you know, it could be whatever. And I've just got it centered on this bottom section. There we go. Okay. Oops. set that aside, put this ink pad away, and now we're going to use our Memento to stamp the two cats. Like I said, I may not have a big enough scrap, so I may have to just grab another scrap if I don't have enough. Really get it on there, make sure that I get a nice, well-covered image. Sometimes these stamps where there's a lot of surface like that, sometimes if you're not careful, you don't get a really good image. So you just want to be careful of that. And then we're going to do the other one really quick. This works out okay because I end up cutting the bottom of the tail off anyway. Okay, so again, clean off my stamp. I think I need to rinse off my chamois because this black just isn't coming off as easy as it normally does. So I think that's just my chamois telling me it needs a bath. Okay, now I'm going to take my Melon Mambo markers and I want to color in these little hearts. So I'm going to start with the dark and just kind of do the edge of my hearts like that. And then I've got the inside, or the light one. Okay. And now we're going to fussy cut these guys really quick. Now, one thing you want to watch for, normally I have a little halo around the edge of my stamp, right? But along the very bottom of these, you're going to cut flush up against your image. So I'm just going to come around here. And they're big, but they're not super detailed around the edges, so they cut out pretty quickly and easily. Especially this guy. Okay, so we've got this one right here, and I kind of think I want to fix this just a little tiny bit. I probably could have gotten away with just not cutting into that at all, but because I did, I want to make sure it looks right. Okay, so set that aside for the moment. Let's cut some of this off just so that I'm not dealing with a whole bunch of extra paper. We talked about that earlier. Okay, so again, as I go along the bottom, I'm going to cut flush up against the stamped image. And I'm doing that because I want it to look like he's laying on that strip of Designer Series paper. And on the other one, I want it to look like he's sitting in that little window we cut out. And the halo just kind of makes it look like he's floating. Okay, and now for the rest of it, I do want to have a little bit of a halo. Now I found that these hearts, I wanted to keep the hearts, but they were just a little too close and it was hard to get in there and really shape it nicely. So I separated them and then just glued them back on, placed where they kind of were before. You'll see what I'm talking about here in a minute if that didn't make sense. Oops. Okay. Oops, we want to do our hearts now. So for my hearts, I'm not doing them individually. I'm still going to do them as a little cluster. It just looked weird when I kept it attached to the cat, the cutout of the cat. So I just want to trim this little bit off. There we go. Okay, so get my little pieces out of the way here. And now we're just going to glue everything together and our card is ready. So like I said, it's not a difficult card. It's just there's a few pieces. So let's go ahead and glue this down. I did choose to use my liquid glue on this just because these little strips on here, these pieces, are kind of narrow. I did it at a little bit of an angle, but I wanted to make sure that it stayed on the designer series paper. So you got to get it at just the right angle. There we go. We'll start with this guy. We're going to glue him in our window. Just like that. And now we're going to glue this one so it looks like he's hanging over the edge of that strip. And I'm just butting it right up against the edge of the strip and then cut off the extra of his tail. There we go. Isn't that cute? I just love that. Okay, oops, we want to put our little hearts on there. Just a couple little dots of glue is all you need for this. And I'm trying to remember where they went. Okay, kind of like that. There we go. And now, last part, we're just going to go ahead and put our flowers on. And we're going to put some embellishments on our flowers. So let's see. I've got, these are in the Melon Mambo and Blushing Bride. I've got one big one and then all the rest of them are small. Oh, I wanted, actually, I don't want to use glue on that one. I want to use a dimensional. I want dimensionals on all the rest of them. So I'm going to use my mini dimensionals here. And I find for me with the mini dimensionals, it's easier if I use my Take Your Pick tool. to at least get it on there. Come on, you. This one we do want to, this little pink one I want to glue down. When I layer pieces like I have with these flowers, sometimes I like to glue one down and then put a dimensional on the other, and that gives that perception of depth. Okay, last one. I hope you guys are enjoying what we're doing tonight. And if you are, I'd love it if you give me likes and thumbs up and all that stuff. In addition to just plain making me feel good, it also tells the algorithms, oh, people like this, so maybe we want to share it with others. So that does help me a lot. If you do that, it also helps me if you share this video. So if you do that, I would love that. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, or even if you aren't watching it on YouTube right now, head on over there. You can find my page by just looking for Stamp Happenings, and you will find me, and you can subscribe. I'm trying to build my subscribers over there. So for these, I'm using the opaque adhesive backed gems. I like these nice white ones. And I am using the little tiny ones on the centers of the little flowers. One of my flowers, if you remember, is just slightly bigger. And we're going to use the next size up of gem on that one. Just like that. There. Now, if you need to order some supplies, or you want to get that kit to join my class that I'm going to be doing on the 15th of April, the Kaleidoscope kit, I'd love to earn your business, and you can shop on my online store at heathersides.stampinup.net. Let's put some stuff away here so we can take a peek at everything that we made tonight before we say goodnight. Thanks, Judy. Okay. Clean up the mess a little bit. Okay, so we have the card that we just finished with the kitties inside and out. We also have this beautiful one with the framed florets. And this could be beautiful with so many different designer series papers. And then finally we have this one with the desert details, or delicate desert or something like that, and a fun fold. Remember, we did the fun fold on this one. So I do hope that you enjoyed those. I always enjoy spending my Wednesday nights with you guys, and I look forward to seeing you again next week, same time, same place, 6 p.m. Pacific time. Have a good night, everybody.